right, high rollers, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Our chat today is brought to you by our partner site, Locals Gaming. Always play the best game in town at www.localsgaming.com. And Aces Wine, the best grapes in the Okanagan Valley, Aces Wine. So I'm sitting on the couch one day and my buddy calls, says, have you seen this show, 2 months, 2 million? It's on PokerTube. Of course, he knows I'm a poker junkie. I watch anything and everything to do with the game, except perhaps training videos, and that's why I'm still terrible. Anyway, I checked it out. Absolutely loved it. One of my favorite poker series ever. If you haven't seen it, you must. I promise you, it's fascinating. 4 guys living the dream in Las Vegas, a mansion, trying to make $2 million between them in 2 months. Well, our next guest is one of the 4. He also happens to be the founder of one of the world's leading poker training sites, Deuces, one of the guys behind the popular animated series The Micros, poker player, instructor, businessman, and now he's making a movie about the rise and fall of online poker. Jay Rosencrantz joins us. Jay, thanks for being a high roller, man.
Thanks. That was a good intro.
Hey, listen, I aim to please. I have to say, this is quite a thrill. My first introduction to you was that G4 TV series, 2 months, 2 million. I know you get asked about it a lot, but I'd like to talk about it for just a minute if we could. How did that show come about? I'm guessing the 4 of you were friends, probably sitting around one day shooting the shit, and someone says, hey, I got this idea. How did it come to be?
Yeah, it was kind of like that. I graduated film school in 2006, right into the middle of the online poker boom, and I just found myself kind of fascinated by the life that I was living and the life that I was pursuing on the internet, and I was meeting all sorts of crazy online poker playing characters from all over the U.S., all over the world. We started living together. We were going to Las Vegas for the World Series of Poker, and I reached out to a friend of mine from school who happened to be working in Hollywood and was just saying, hey, like, this is pretty crazy. I feel like there should be something made documenting this, ridiculous opportunities, these ridiculous lifestyles, this video game in which people are just printing money, just sitting at home in their underwear. And he put me in touch with somebody else who at the time was working for Current TV, which is like a public broadcast station owned by Al Gore. And this guy Brandon, was like, you know what, this sounds great. Let me send a film crew out, which is in 2007, to just shoot you guys this summer living in this house. And so they came out, and that happened to be the summer that all of us kind of made a big leap up in stakes to the nosebleed games. Like back then it was 2007, the games that were going regularly were 200, 400, no limit. And they captured us just winning like $1 million in a week and really using that money to enjoy life, and just they kind of got a sense of the types of friendships we were making. And from there, I think that team who came and shot it and who thought about it, they decided this needs to be a reality show, this needs to be a documentary. And we all spent the next 2 years kind of evolving the concept and pitching it to different television networks, and finally G4 decided, you know what, this sounds good, we're going to give you guys money to make a pilot, and they called the pilot House of Cards. And we went out and filmed that. Actually, Donnie, who was Ansky, who was one of the 4 on 2 months, 2 million, he wasn't part of the show yet. It was this other kid that we lived with, Foxwood Fiends. He ended up going to law school, so he dropped out of the show. We found Donnie, who's also a friend of ours, and we were competing against like 2 other pilots, but G4 really loved the pilots that they made and decided, you know what, in 2009, let's just do this for the summer. And it was a really crazy experience.
Well, what was that experience like? I mean, you guys are close friends, right? You're basically living the dream in Vegas. Give us a sense of what it was really like. You said printing money. Was it that crazy in those days?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, one day we would share action a lot to be able to weather the swings of those really insanely high-stakes games. So oftentimes we'd be chopping the action like 4 ways, but one of us would be playing, or we'd all kind of be sitting in different games, and whoever got action, everyone was in on it. So there'd be times when like my roommates would be sleeping and I'd wake up early, go to the gym, come back, and I'd play like 200, 400 game, and somebody would come into the kitchen to eat breakfast, and I'd be like, oh, we don't have to work today, and I'd have won like $300,000.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it was a time in which we were all really geeking out about poker on 2+2 and on the internet, and you had some of the best players in the world learning how to play together by sharing information and teaching each other. And at that time, there were a lot of people who had made a lot of money during the early days of the poker boom, whether they were live television pros or they were just rich whales, were all playing in these super high-stakes games. So we really had a big edge back then. Then as the years went on, I think people in 2009 on 2 months, $2 million, even a year later, or right before Black Friday, the games started getting a lot tougher. The action didn't, the games didn't run as often, but yeah, it was really easy and it was a really fun time. And we were like 22 years old, 23, and 25 when 2 months, $2 million was on, but still we were just basically like kids in a candy store.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was compelled to watch it because you were basically living my dream. I'm not a very good poker player, but I certainly love the game. Did you guys get to the 2 million mark? I don't think you did, right? You fell just a bit short?
Yeah, I think the total was like 673,000 or something like that. It was tough to make. The toughest thing about making that show was learning how to make a television show, because there was a lot of push and pull between us as professional poker players, especially because the network wants us to be out there trying to make $2 million in 2 months. Well, we need to be like really serious about how are we going to make this $2 million. That's a lot of money in 2 months, especially when the big stakes games aren't running all the time. So we need time to play poker and grind. But then the producers want us to, they're filming us constantly. They want us to be doing fun stuff and talking about stuff irrelevant to what we're doing at the tables. So learning how to deal with that, like the flow of production, was very difficult and was an adjustment. Not only that, the network wanted us to, they want like tons of girls in the show, so they want us to go at like 4 o'clock on a certain day, go out to the Hard Rock pool and hang out with girls who are going to be there, which is fun and fine and pretty awesome. When you have to leave like a high-stakes game that's really soft, there's kind of a bit of conflict there. So I think...
Yeah, let's see. Do I play some high-stakes poker, or do I go out with some hot-looking chicks for dinner? Tough decision. Hey, at the end of each episode, the player who lost the most or won the least were kind of punished. I can't remember. Were you ever on the wrong end of one of those, what would you call it, hazings?
Yeah, we called them penalty stunts. I lost like 5 of them out of the 10. I had to dance in an all-male review. I had to like run down or rollerblade down the strip to the Welcome to Las Vegas sign wearing a cutoff.
That's right. I remember that one, yes.
Yeah, there were a lot of embarrassing ones. I had my face painted like my Full Tilt avatar, which was the clown, and I had to raise money from girls at the Sapphire Pool at the Rio. So, I mean, I kind of enjoyed all that. It's sort of sickly fun, but it was just a crazy experience being part of something like that.
Well, I'll tell you what. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys get together and try to do that again because it was some great TV. We're on the line with the formidable Jay Rosencrantz, known as Krantz Online. He's an online killer, folks, founder of the training website Deuces. Now, how did you get your start in poker, Jay? I know you started young, like 12 or something. I mean, does your family play?
My grandmother plays cards. What does she play? She plays, I forget, the game escapes me, but it's like a game that a lot of old women like to play.
Crib or something like that?
Yeah, it's like, Mahjong. She loves to play Mahjong, which I guess it's tiles, but she taught me how to play cards when I was little, and then I, kind of always like played a bit with my friends, but Rounders came out. When Rounders came out, I mean, that was like, you saw 2 months, $2 million, you're like, that's my dream life. I saw Rounders, and I was like, Matt Damon is living my dream life. It was amazing. This was just like, this is it for me. I love this, and so I just became obsessed. My friends became obsessed. We started playing in middle school and high school, and I kept finding more and more different kinds of underground games. Sneaking into Atlantic City to play at the Taj Mahal before I was even 18. I was just obsessed. And then in college, of course, poker hit the internet, and that was it for me.
Yeah, no kidding. A lot of people the same way. Wait, speaking of Rounders, man, it's the ultimate poker movie. Why do you think that movie works, and why do you think a sequel hasn't been made yet?
I don't know why a sequel hasn't been made yet. I think if Hollywood, I'm pretty sure, I'm not quite sure who owns the rights to it, but I imagine that it's got some sort of political, bureaucratic type of, it's been caught in some sort of mess there that prevented them from doing it. Because it would have been great to just do it during the poker boom. During those years, it would have been fantastic. I mean, why was it so good? I think you've got great performances by Matt Damon, Ed Norton, ridiculous performance by John Malkovich, Teddy KGB out of nowhere, and it's just a good story about like the relationship between Matt Damon and Ed Norton is really good. Like, who doesn't have that dream of being able to go to the World Series and really believe in himself and his skill? And he gets bad beat. Like, he just gets set up like crazy in the middle when he decides to take a shot. That's happened to kind of anybody, not just poker players, but people who take shots at life. Then you've got your friend who's just like messing stuff up for you constantly because he's trying to shoot angles and almost cheat the way life works. So I think it was just a really, really good story, and you've got Matt Damon with the voiceover kind of explaining what's appealing about cards. It's kind of got like that film noir feel to it. So it was just really well made, I think.
By the way, what did you study at university?
I studied film and television.
There's a film critic right there, folks. Listen, the advent of online poker comes in. You get involved in it. You sort of immerse yourself right into the whole scene. You get quite good. Now, that doesn't happen to everybody. Can you tell our listeners out there, the average Joes like me that just love watching the game, what your rise was like, what you started playing, and how fast you went up in limits? Did you ever come back down to bankruptcy, and did you build it back up again? Give us a sense of what it was like for you, a teenager getting into the game.
Sure. Well, when I was a teenager, I read a couple of poker books, and so immediately I was better than most of my friends playing. And so I crushed the games with like my friends who just enjoyed playing. As I went into tougher and bigger stakes games, started playing in Atlantic City, I didn't really understand. I just had to control my degenerate side. Like, I was taking shots and making bad plays, chasing losses, tilting, all the things that to be a professional you just have to learn not to do. You have to be able to beat down or at least control your demons really well. And back then I just had no conception of how to manage a bankroll, what a bankroll even was, other than all the money that I had to my name. So I was just going broke, in debt constantly then. Even in college, same types of stuff. And when I started playing online, similar stuff. Like, I was just losing money, running it up, taking shots at games I couldn't afford, losing it. Then, though, I found 2+2, and I remember a friend that I had come up with playing in high school mentioned 2+2 and said, there's these guys, and they're like playing limit hold'em, and they're four-tabling it, and they're making $15 an hour plus rakeback, and then he explained to me what rakeback is. And immediately I'm like, what do you mean? They're doing this, like, they can sustain this? They're doing this consistently? He's like, yeah, they've proven it. They have formulas. It's all math-based, blah, blah, blah. So I just immediately become an obsessive and compulsive 2+2 reader. I start posting. I start throwing myself into figuring out how to do this, how to really understand the game, how to be a pro, how to make money doing it. And at first it was like rinse and repeat. I would play 3-6 limit hold'em with a small bankroll. Like, I would put in a deposit and get a deposit bonus and a decent rakeback deal, and I'd be like break even, but then the rakeback would give me some extra money. I'd take it all to 1-2 no limit, and I'd like run it up a little, and then I'd lose it all. And then it was just like this over and over. I would have to grind together a bankroll through playing in some like underground college game, put it back online, maybe put some hands on 2+2, get some insights. Slowly I was becoming better through this whole process. Finally, I think I hit a point in which I managed to build up a bankroll large enough where I had enough money to withstand up and down variance. And at that point, I was kind of good enough and talking enough poker with a lot of different people to be able to objectively analyze how I was doing. And from there, it was sort of like a slow build. Slow, relatively speaking. I moved to New York City after college, and I just played like 100,000 hands a month, like a maniac. Anywhere from like 6 to 10 table.
100,000 hands a month?
Yeah.
Wow.
A certain amount, like 8 to 10 hours a day, just plugged into the matrix, like staring at a computer screen, talking to people on Skype about poker, posting on 2+2. I was coaching people who were below me. So that coaching people really...
Well, listen, while we're on the topic of coaching, I want to get into Deuces Crack now. You know, online poker happens. You mentioned rounders. Of course, Moneymaker wins. More and more people start playing, but with that, more and more people start looking for training. It's only natural. They want to get better. That's a competitive market, isn't it? Your site has emerged as a leader, Deuces Crack. How did you come up with the idea, and what do you think about the poker instruction market as a whole these days?
Well, I think it's pretty competitive now. When we started, it wasn't very competitive, and even before that, I was one of the first people who was coaching poker on the internet. There were a few other people, but I was one of the first who started to do it and started to turn that into a business. And
that just seemed natural from your forum discussions on 2+2 and your discussions with friends?
Yeah, kind of. Like people they would message me on 2+2 and say, hey, I like the way you think about the game. Would you coach me? I'll pay you like $50 an hour, $60 an hour. To me at that point, I'm like, yeah, sure. Obviously I want that. Like I get to talk about poker and I have no chance of losing this money that you're giving me. So,
I mean, that's a pretty good wage for most people, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it was incredible. And I think that my parents that was what I would tell my parents what I was doing.
I got to hear this story. What did they say?
Well, they were just, I think they didn't understand it, but they were just like, okay, as long as you're not coming to us for rent money, do whatever the hell you want. So I started coaching a lot. At the time, Taylor Cabey, who's my co-producer now on Bet Raise Fold, the story of online poker, the movie that we're putting.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second.
Sure. He was doing card runners, which they had some of the best players. They were putting up training videos, which are kind of the evolution of poker strategy. You had books, and now you're putting it on the internet. They were really popular, and they seem to be doing well. And so I thought, you know what, like, for me, I found this to be interesting, definitely a business opportunity, but I needed, like, some other spark to make me want to get into it. And a buddy of mine, my roommate at the time, he saw that we started talking about this, and he saw that there was an opportunity in structured learning and creating and presenting training videos as video series, kind of like a book where, you know, you progressively read the book and you learn a concept and then you go into the next concept, and kind of like a television series where each week you return to pick up with the characters that, you know, you spent time with last week. So we came up with this idea of 8-episode video series where you would follow some guy moving through the stakes, or you would like learn the math of No Limit Hold'em over the course of 8 hours. And we decided, you know what, that's strong enough. People are probably gonna like this. And we partnered up with some guys who were really good at the video technology side of things, and launched Deuces Cracked and started competing with card runners, and just, you know, became, I guess, a staple of poker training.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's a tremendous site. You've got thousands of videos. As you mentioned, all those series. It's a great learning tool and highly recommended. You know, the amount of money you're going to spend on some poker instruction could come back to you in one pot if you play it right. You know what I mean? You were featured in Forbes Video Network documentary in 2007, which explored the world of online coaching. I want to talk to you about this new production that you are, I guess, an executive producer on, Bet Raise Fold, the movie, the story of the rise and fall of online poker. Before we get into all of that, I want to mention one name, and I want your thoughts real quick. Russ Hamilton.
He's an idiot. You know.
Yeah, there's no honor among that thief. Okay, I got it there. Now, the movie, Bet Raise Fold, the story of online poker. This is quite an undertaking because it really is a fascinating story from the roots to nowadays when the legal mumbo-jumbo in the United States.
Absolutely. Yeah. What do you want to know about it?
Well, let's talk about the movie. I mean, I watched the trailer. You've got Tony Dunst with no shirt on hitting on some girls. That's the heyday. They were printing money, as you said. Tell me about the whole process of this undertaking.
Sure. I mean, this is the biggest, deepest, most ambitious project I've ever done in my life, without a doubt. And we're releasing now June 30th online. We've got a Kickstarter up to help us support distribution. And I really believe that this is the best documentary about poker ever made.
I mean, the trailer looks fantastic.
But thank you, and I feel like the movie blows the trailer away. It's so much deeper, and I really believe that it's so good for poker because it's a character-driven story. So we have 3 characters with Tony Dunst, who grew up watching the World Poker Tour on TV, and he dreamed of being on TV one day. He just thought that the people at the World Poker Tour, Phil Hellmuth, Phil Ivey, all these guys who were playing, and Stan Legrand, he thought they were living the coolest lifestyles, wanted to be like them. Fast forward a few years, and he's the new host of the World Poker Tour.
Unbelievable. He was on our show and told us the whole story and how he got that gig. A wonderful interview there as well. Continue.
Yeah, we thought he was such an eccentric character, charismatic, and we started following him right when he was getting this job. So this was before Black Friday, during the golden era, where it seemed like anything was possible if you were a part of online poker. Whatever you wanted to do, you could do it. We found this woman, Danielle Anderson, 26-year-old, stay-at-home mother in the middle of Nowheresville, Minnesota, in this just like wintry, small, conservative town. Her husband takes care of their young kid while she grinds online poker and was supporting her family since 2004, I think. 2005 time playing online poker.
I mean, she's really like the untold story, isn't she? Because we see guys like Daniel Negreanu, guys like yourself, guys that make it in the online world and transition to live poker and make millions, it seems, right? They're superstars. But how many more people are like that stay-at-home mom? They wake up and they grind it out day to day. It's a living for them. They don't make the superstar status, but they can pay the bills.
Absolutely. There's so many people like that, and there's so many more people that just play poker casually because they find it fun. They want to spend their Sunday just curled up on a couch, playing some poker tournaments, watching something on television. They find it relaxing. They find it entertaining. That's how they want to spend their money and their time. And so she is very much like an every woman, and being that she's a woman, we found that very interesting as well, because one of the things that we thought to do by telling this story, not only telling this incredible roller coaster story of online poker, we wanted to dispel a lot of misconceptions that people have in the general public about poker players, about why people are passionate about the game, about what the game is, and about how the internet changed things and internet gambling changed things. And so she just came out of nowhere, fell into our lap, such a perfect person to follow, and she's really the heart of our story because she's such a relatable person for anybody who isn't a gambler. And then we've got Martin, who's Alexei Martov, who's a guy I knew from the high-stakes no-limit games, who's just a brilliant, hilarious, eccentric, charismatic, super talented person, one of the best online poker players in the world. He's better than me. He's better than just about anybody, smarter than just about anybody about the game. And he was from Australia, found online poker playing StarCraft, and people in the StarCraft community were talking about online poker. He just threw himself into it, dropped out of school, traveled the world, and then now he's in the movies and living in Montreal, and he's just like helps us in the film explore the strategy of the game, kind of the philosophy of the game, sort of the beauty of poker and why people are drawn to it.
I found it interesting that you mentioned that he's better than you. If I was sitting at a table with you, I would recognize it quite early on that you're better than me. But for a guy of your caliber, a talented player in your own right, you also recognize when other players are just a bit above you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's kind of all relative. Like, the difference between me and somebody lower on the totem pole could be huge. And then the difference between me and somebody higher on the totem pole might not be as huge. But in terms of their win rate, I guess that's how you compare us. They're going to win more money than me playing the game, and they might just beat the crap out of me over a long period of time because they're just that much more sound in every area than me. It's almost like some of the best chefs talking about like knife skills. And it's so niche and kind of obscure and weird to people who aren't the best chefs or whatever. But to those best chefs, it's everything. They can really tell the degree to which these guys can like mince up their meat or whatever. So that's kind of without getting too.
No, we understand you perfectly. So listen, Bet Raise Full, the story of online poker. You mentioned the release date, June 30th, the most ambitious project you've ever worked on. It looks incredible. I can't wait to see it. Where can people go to get more information on that movie?
Sure, I would go to betraisedfoldmovie.com and go to if you go to Kickstarter.com and you search Bet Raise Fold, the story of online poker, you'll find our Kickstarter. You'll find out why we made the movie, what it's about. While it's driven by these characters, it's also about everything that happened, from Moneymaker to the passing of the UIGEA, which was an affront to democracy, to Black Friday, how and why that happened, what happened, who caused it, who's responsible, what happened with Full Tilt, and where we think poker is going.
How bad a day was that for you, April 15th?
Man, it was traumatic. It was terrible. It was my entire life was wrapped up in poker. My entire identity, all my friends' identities were wrapped up in this, and it was just our goals, our life plans, they were just taken away from us without warning. We were very fortunate to be put in that spot in the first place. But the way it happened and the fact that, just everything that caused it, it was really difficult for a lot of people to deal with. It was difficult for me to deal with. I got very depressed, and it took me a long time to get out of it. And one of the things that helped me get out of it was throwing myself into this movie. Literally, our souls went into this movie trying to do something that would sort of shed light on why this happened and just for the world, really.
Well, I think it's an important undertaking. Yeah, I think it's an important undertaking, not only for the poker world, but for outside it as well, because it's a situation where the government's come in and basically playing parent on us. I mean, it's our money. We can do with it what we want, correct? It's a very big undertaking. I certainly wish you the best of luck with it. It looks fantastic. The trailer looks awesome. Listen, you wrote on Deuces Cracked once that, quote, I was a waiter, a mouse pad cutter, tent cleaner, freelance writer, legal assistant, and gas pumper. What was your favorite and least favorite of those gigs?
The mouse pad cutter was terrible because it was inside like a factory with no windows with like two illegal immigrants. And it was routine, just like as a mouse pad would come down the line, you cut it with this big kind of cutter thing. It was that for like 8 hours. That was terrible. I enjoyed the gas pumper because my family has had a gas station in the family for a long time, so it's sort of a family business. And I go and I get to just hang out and read between when cars would come, and I would get to spend time with my uncles who were managers, mechanics, and it was just very interesting a place to be. So I kind of enjoyed that.
Jay, listen, man, it's been a real treat, a pleasure. Really look forward to this interview and really enjoyed the fact that you took some time out. Best of luck with the movie, man.
Yeah, you too. Good luck with the radio show, and I hope to meet you in Las Vegas.
Absolutely. Jay Rosencrantz, Krantz Online. The movie is Bet Raise Fold. It's a story of online poker. You got to check out the trailer because it looks terrific. Jay Rosencrantz.
Hi, this is Jay Rosencrantz, producer of Bet Raise Fold, the story of online poker, and you're listening to High Roller Radio.